Dear students, first lesson, second PUC reproduction in organisms ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಈಗ let me start with the second lesson in second PUC that is sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Flower is a modified shoot meant for reproduction. It consists of male reproductive system and female reproductive system. A typical flower like hibiscus consists of calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium. Units of calyx consist of sepals. Sepals protect the flower when it is in bud condition. And corolla consists of petals which attract insects for pollination. And the male reproductive system of a flower is called androecium. Female reproductive system is called gynoecium. Androecium consists of stamens. Stamens consist of filament, anther, pollen grains. And then the gynoecium consists of ovary, ovule, style, stigma. So coming to the androecium. Androecium is the male reproductive system of a flower. Consists of many stamens. Each stamen consists of the filament and anther, and within the anther pollen grains are produced. Anther is also called microsporangium. This is very important for your NEET examination. Anther is called microsporangium, and section of the microsporangium anther in majority of the plants shows 4 spore producing sides, 4 sides, but it is consists of 2 lobes, diathecous, but each theca consists of 2 sides of spore bearing sides. Thus we can call this as tetrasporangiate anther, tetrasporangiate microsporangium. A thin transverse section of tetrasporangiate anther or microsporangium shows 4 distinct portions: epidermis, endothecium, middle layer and tapetum. And tapetum may be uninucleated or binucleated, and it is nutritive in function, supplies nutrition to the sporogenous tissue, spore producing tissue. This spore lobes are 4 sides, consist of sporogenous tissue which produces the pollen grains. How they produce? So this sporogenous tissue produces PMC, pollen mother cell. Pollen mother cell is also called microspore mother cell. Microspore mother cell, that is very, very important. Usually MMC here, PMC is also called MMC, pollen mother cell also called MMC, means microspore mother cell. Usually the students will go for megaspore mother cell, MMC. But here also MMC, that means here it is microspore mother cell. Microspore mother cell undergoes first meiotic division resulting in the formation of 2 microspores, and undergoes second meiotic division to give tetrad of spores arranged in different ways, tetrad spores. As they get separated from the tetrad stage, they are called pollen grains. How these tetrad spores get separated? Idorgu neatly kelilla, keluvanta chance irutte. So they get dehydrated, lose water, and they get separated. This separated microspore and this development of microspores from PMC or microspore mother cell called microsporogenesis, that is also very important. These separated pollen grains are also called male gametophyte. Male gametophytes, adu kudanu tumba important. A pollen grain, usually its size will be 25 to 50 micrometers. Igagale ondsari neatly kelidane. Pollen grain consists of outer exine and inner intine. Exine consists of sporopollenin and intine consists of pectin and cellulose. And here and there, the sporopollen absent. The region where the sporopollen absent called germ pore. Through this germ pore, the pollen tube comes out. So, next to this, it consists of cytoplasm. Within the cytoplasm, nucleus is present. That is the structure of the pollen grain. This sporopollen is heat resistant, drought resistant. It is not affected by even acid or alkali. Hence, it can be fossilized, and microfossilization is also possible because of the presence of sporopollen. That is very important for the NEET examination. And next to this, the nucleus undergoes mitotic division, resulting in the formation of generative cell, a small spindle-shaped generative cell which floats in the cytoplasm, and a large vegetative cell, irregularly shaped nucleus is present for the vegetative cell. In 60% of angiosperms, the pollen shedding, that is the dispersal of these pollen grains, takes place in the two-celled stage, that is the generative cell and the vegetative cell. But in remaining 40%, this generative cell undergoes a second mitotic division, resulting in the formation of two male gametes. In the three-celled stage, shedding of pollen grains takes place in 40% of angiosperms. And this is also very important. How many divisions occur for the dispersal of the pollen grains? Then for the gamete formation, that means only one meiosis and two mitotic divisions. It is very important. Two mitosis, one meiosis. Whereas in case of the female gamete development, there it involves one meiosis, three mitosis. ಅದನ್ನು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ one meiosis, two mitosis ಇದು ನೀಟ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಆಗುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಫರ್ದರ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟೋಫೈಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇದನ್ನೇ ಬರೀಬೇಕು. ದ ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೈನ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ನ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು. ಇದು ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಟು these pollen grains said to cause allergic diseases of few plants only. For example, the carrot grass. Carrot grass came to India as a contaminant with the imported wheat, has become ubiquitous in occurrence and said to cause allergic disorders like asthma, bronchitis, hay fever. ಈ ಥರದ್ದು ಉಂಟು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಕಾಯಿಲೆಗಳು. ಕೆಲವು ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೈನ್ಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ. Pollen grains are highly nutritious, rich in nutrients, used in tablets, and especially this kind said to increase the performance of the athletics and race horses, as the pollen grains of few plants rich in nutrients. And these pollen grains are viable for only 30 minutes in cereals such as rice, ragi, wheat, jawar, and viable for few months in the Rosaceae, Leguminaceae and Solanaceae members. And the pollen grains can be preserved at -196 degree centigrade in a liquid nitrogen and used for subsequent cropping. So this is about the male reproductive system and the development of the male gametophyte, etc. Coming to the female reproductive system. Female reproductive system is known as the gynoecium. Gynoecium consists of ovary, ovule, style, stigma. And ovary may be monocarpellary, single carpel present. Monocarpellary can be seen in Fabaceae members, bicarpellary in Solanaceae, tricarpellary in Liliaceae. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. monocarpellary in Fabaceae members, Physarum sativum ಈ ಥರದ್ದು, bicarpellary in solanaceae members, brinjal, tomato, etc. And then tricarpellary in liliaceae, once asked in the NEET, tricarpellary ovary. And the multicarpellary ovaries. There are two types of multicarpellary ovaries. Multicarpellary apocarpus, free carpels produce aggregate of follicle fluids. Example, Michaelia champak. Michaelia champak is important. But iduvargu kelide iruvanthaddu multicarpellary syncarpus example innu kelilla. Multicarpellary syncarpus example papaver somniferum. ಸೊ ಈ ಥರದ್ದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಏನಾದರೂ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಥವಾ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ ದ ಫಾಲೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಮಾನೋಕಾರ್ಪುಲರಿ, ಬೈಕಾರ್ಪುಲರಿ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ as I told you earlier, the gynecium consists of ovary, ovule, styled stigma. Ovule, structure of ovule. So ಅದು ಈ ಥರ, if the ovule takes a turn of 180 degrees like this is known as Anatropus ovule. Anatropus ovule. In majority of angiosperms, you can see Anatropus ovule, where the opening is called micropyle. Ovary takes a turn of 180 degrees, micropyle. Opposite to this, there is chalaza, and the stalk of the ovule is called funicle. And there are integuments, inner integument, outer integument, etc. And there is female gametophyte. Within the female gametophyte, nucellus is present. These are the various parts of the Anatropus ovule, that is the micropyle, chalaza, and a depression at which the funicle joins, that is called hilum. Hilum, stalk is called funiculus, integuments, female gametophyte. Female gametophyte consists of nucellus, and this produces, the nucellus produces the female embryo sac, which is 7-celled 8-nucleate embryo sac. 7-celled 8-nucleate embryo sac. Idu kuda tumba important. So that means the ovule consists of, once again, micropyle, chalaza, funicle, hilum, integuments, female gametophyte, that is nucellus, and embryo sac, 7-celled 8-nucleate embryo sac. 7-celled 8-nucleate embryo sac consists of egg apparatus. Egg apparatus consists of egg cell and 2 synergid cells, and antipodal cells at the chalazae region, and 2 polar nuclei or secondary nuclei, also called central cell. 3 ಹೆಸರುಗಳು ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. Secondary nuclei, polar nuclei, or central cell. This is 7-celled 8-nucleate embryo sac. This is about the structure of the ovule. How the development takes place. ಇದು ಕೂಡ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ನೋಡಿ, one of the cell present in the nucellus. ಇದು ಬುಕ್ಕಲ್ಲಿ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. One of the cell present in the nucellus during the development of the female gametophyte, that is the female embryo sac. One of the cell present in the nucellus, female gametophyte, this develops into MMC, megaspore mother cell. Alli pollen mother cell, also called MMC, microspore mother cell. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಮೆಗಾಸ್ಪೋರ್ ಮದರ್ ಸೆಲ್, MMC ಅಂತೀವಿ, ಆದರೆ ಮೆಗಾಸ್ಪೋರ್ ಮದರ್ ಸೆಲ್. One of the cell present in the nucellus develops into MMC, megaspore mother cell. Megaspore mother cell undergoes first meiotic division, second meiotic division to give tetrad spores. Tetrad spores, 4 spores called megaspores, and the development of megaspores. So from MMC, megaspore mother cell called megasporogenesis. Of the 4, 3 gets degenerated, and only one persists, remains, that is called functional megaspore. And the entire female gametophyte will be given, or the embryo sac will be given from this single functional megaspore. Hence the development of the female gametophyte or embryo sac is said to be monosporic. That is, it develops from single functional megaspore. ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಮಿಯಾಸಿಸ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾನು ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನು ಕಲ್ತ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ದ ಫಂಕ್ಷನಲ್ ದಿಸ್ ಮೆಗಾಸ್ಪೋರ್ undergoes first mitotic division, resulting in the formation of two nuclei, and each nuclei migrates towards the opposite ends and undergoes second mitotic division to give two each nuclei, and undergoes third mitotic division. Thus, the development of gametes here, it involves only one meiosis and three mitosis, whereas in case of the male gametophyte, it involves one meiosis and two mitosis. ಇದು ನೀಟ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ 3 mitotic divisions ಆಗುತ್ತೆ and each two nuclei present towards the opposite poles undergo third mitotic division, resulting in the formation of quadrate, that is 4 each nuclei. Of these 4 each nuclei, one migrates towards the center, another migrates towards the center from this side, this end, and together forms secondary nucleus or polar nuclei are the central cell. More cell, the secondary nuclei and polar nuclei are central cell anta karite. Thus, it is 8 nucleate now. It is 8 nucleate. But here what happens? Later the cell wall is laid only after the nuclei gets migrated to different parts, then develops into the 3 which are present towards the micropyle, develops into the egg apparatus, consists of egg cell and 2 synergid cell which has filiform apparatus, and the 3 cells which are present towards the chalaza develop into antipodal cells, and in the middle there are secondary nuclei or polar nuclei, and it is the central cell. ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಮೊದಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಕೇಳಿಲ್ಲ. Cell wall is laid only in the end after the assembly of all these things, 3 towards one end, 3 towards opposite end, and in the middle 2. Later the cell wall formation takes place. ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಕೇಳಿಲ್ಲ ನೀಟಲ್ಲಿ. Thus a 7-celled 8 nucleate embryo sac is developed. ಸೊ ಈ ಥರದ್ದು ಗೈನೇಷಿಯಂಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಾಗಿದೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇದು ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೈನ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಆಂಥರ್ ಟು ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್. ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೈನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಆಂಥರ್ ಟು ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಟೋಗಮಿ. Self pollination. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of different flower called allogamy ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್, ಸೇ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ OCV ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಕೋಡ್ ವರ್ಡ್, ಆಕ್ಸಾಲಿಸ್, ಕೊಮಲಿನಾ, ವಯೋಲಾ. ವಯೋಲಾ is also called pansy. They produce 2 types of flowers. That is the one open type of flowers called chasmogamous flowers, and closed type of flowers called clistogamous flowers. These 3 plants, especially Oxalis, Commelina, Viola or Pansy, produce 2 types of flowers. Open flowers called chasmogamous flowers, clistogamous flowers. So in clistogamous flowers do not open at all. Hence, they are invariably autogamous. No other way. Only autogamous pollination takes place, self-pollination takes place as the closed flowers, clistogamous flowers. They are invariably autogamous and seed formation is assured. That is in case of clistogamous flowers. And coming to the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of different flower called cross pollination, also called allogamy. There are 2 types of allogamy, geitonogamy and xenogamy. In geitonogamy, transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of the different flower but of the same plant. And that is very important. Different flower in the cross pollination of the same plant called geitonogamy, genetically autogamous. Geitonogous flowers are genetically autogamous and functionally, that is allogamy of the same plant, hence genetically autogamous is important. So transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of different flower, different plant called xenogamy. So allogamy is of two types, geitonogamy and xenogamy. In xenogamy, it is functionally as well as genetically, that is only allogamy. Whereas in geitonogamy, functionally allogamous and genetically autogamous flowers. So this is about different types of pollination. In case of cross pollination, there are certain agents which help in pollination, like wind, water, insects, large sized animals, moths, etc. So in cross pollination, the agents which help in cross pollination are, as I told you earlier, all these things. Wind pollination. So the plants or the flowers which are pollinated by the wind called the anemophilous flowers. Wind pollinating flowers. So in case of wind pollinating flowers, anemophilous flowers, the plants produce more number of dust-like, very light pollen grains, non-sticky. They are non-sticky. That is very important character. And they have exposed stamens, non-sticky pollen grains, and more number of pollen grains which are dust-like and very small, very light. These are the characteristic features of the pollen grains of the anemophilous flowers. And coming to the ovary part, ovary has a single ovule, hairy and wavy stigma which is sticky. Hairy, and as you have seen in corn plant, maize plant, ಮೆಕ್ಕೆಜೋಳ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾ ಕಲರ್ಡ್ ಒಂಥರ ಬ್ರೌನ್ ಕಲರ್ಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಹೇರಿ ವೇವಿ ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾ, ಗಾಳಿಗೆ ಅಲುಗಾಡುತ್ತದೆ, ಅಂಡ್ ಸ್ಟಿಕಿ ಇನ್ ನೇಚರ್. ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಫೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅನಿಮೋಫಿಲಸ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್. ನೋಡಿ, ಈ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಮಿಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡ್ರು, ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫಾಲೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಅನಿಮೋಫಿಲಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಆಫ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನ ಓದುವಂಥದ್ದು ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟು. ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೈನ್ಸ್, ಡಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈಕ್, ವೆರಿ ಲೈಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ನಾನ್ ಸ್ಟಿಕಿ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋಸ್ ಸ್ಟೇಮನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು, ಓವರಿ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸಸ್ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಓವ್ಯೂಲ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು, ಹೇರಿ ವೇವಿ ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾ, ಸ್ಟಿಕಿ ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾ. ಸೊ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಅನಿಮೋಫಿಲಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್. And pollination in which water is agent called hydrophilous pollination can be seen in about more than 30%, especially in aquatic plants of monocotyledons ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲಿಸ್ನೇರಿಯಾ ಅಂಡ್ ಹೈಡ್ರಿಲ್ಲಾ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಹೈಡ್ರಿಲ್ಲಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ವ್ಯಾಲಿಸ್ನೇರಿಯಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ಸೀ ಗ್ರಾಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ. Sea grass, zoaster and sea grass. ಈ 3 plants examples ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. So in case of Vallisneria, what happens? Female flowers are present at the surface level and male flowers are present at the bottom, submerged. They are submerged. When the male flowers get matured, they get detached from the plant and floats on water and meets with the female flower due to water current. This is hydrophily in case of Vallisneria. And in case of zooaster, reversal. Male flowers at the surface level, female flowers are submerged. And male flowers produce long ribbon-like pollen grains. High density irutte, and it as it gets matured, it releases the pollen grains, long ribbon-like pollen grains, descends down and meets with the female flower which are submerged of the plant. So thus the pollination, hydrophilous pollination, takes place in seagrass or zooaster. In almost all aquatic plants, the mucilaginous sheath is present in the ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೈನ್ ಟು ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ವೆಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗದಿರೋ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್. ಇದು ಕೂಡ ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಅದು ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ನೀಟ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಏನು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಹಯಾಸಿಂತ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪಿಸ್ಟಿಯಾ, ಐಕಾರ್ನಿಯಾ ಅಂಡ್ ಪಿಸ್ಟಿಯಾ, ದೋ ದೇ ಆರ್ aquatic plants pollinated by wind and insects. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ಥರದ ಎಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ ನೀರಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಾವು ಹೈಡ್ರೋಫಿಲಸ್ ಅಂತ ಬರೀಬಾರ್ದು, ಪಾಲಿನೇಟೆಡ್ ಬೈ ವಿಂಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟು. ಇದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಬರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ನಾಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ಸು, ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗ್ದಿರ ಮಾತ್ಸು, ಸ್ನೇಲ್ಸು, ಆ್ಯಂಟ್ಸು, ಈ ಥರದನ್ನೇ ಅಲ್ದಿರ ಲಾರ್ಜರ್ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ ಸಚ್ ಎಸ್ ರೋಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ರೋಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ರೆಪ್ಟೈಲ್ಸು, ಲಿಸರ್ಡು ಮತ್ತು ಲೆಮರ್, rodents and lemur among the primates and the lizards and reptiles. ಸೊ ಈ ಥರದ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಸೈಜ್ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ ಇಂದನೂ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೀಸ್ ದ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್ ವಿಚ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಗೋ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ they offer the floral rewards to the various insects or the animals. Floral rewards ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವುದು ಫ್ಲೋರಲ್ ರಿವಾರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ the odor, attractive petals, nectar. So all these things are floral rewards to the insects or the moths which pollinate these flowers. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ Anatropus 6 feet flower ಇರುತ್ತೆ. and then it provides oviposition ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. oviposition ಅಂದರೆ provide place in the lacules of ovary to lay the eggs of certain moths go through, and then these moths pollinate the Anatropus flowers. Similarly in yucca also a moth and it yucca flower provides oviposition, place for laying the eggs for certain moths, and then the moths also benefited, and yucca flower is also benefited by the pollination. And ಇದು co-extinction ಗೆ example. One cannot complete its life cycle without another one. That we can see in Anatropus, yucca and the moths, various kinds of moths. So you co-extinction ಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಥ್ರೆಟ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಬಯೋಡೈವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಮುಂದೆ ಅದು ಹ್ಯಾಬಿಟ್ಯಾಟ್ ಲಾಸ್, ಓವರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಟೇಷನ್, co-extinction, ಏಲಿಯನ್ ಸ್ಪೀಶೀಸ್, ಇವೆಲ್ಲ 4 ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟು. ಇದು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಠಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಓದ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಾನು ಏನೇನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ, ಆಂಟ್ರಿಷಿಯಮ್, ಗೈನೀಷಿಯಮ್ ಮತ್ತು ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.